There's a piece of this entire Blake Lively saga that hasn't gotten nearly enough attention, and once you hear it, you'll understand why so many people online can't stop talking about it. It doesn't involve a courtroom filing or a press statement. It involves a decade-long friendship, a Super Bowl absence, and a set of private messages that were apparently never supposed to see daylight.
Insider was intended to address Lively's unexplained absence and give the impression that there was no rift between the pair, and would read along the lines of, "So sad my bestie couldn't come to the Super Bowl."
Before getting into the specifics, it helps to remember where this all sits in the bigger picture. Blake Lively's lawsuit against Justin Baldoni centers on claims of sexual harassment and a retaliatory smear campaign tied to their work together on It Ends With Us. Baldoni has denied the allegations and countersued, and his legal team, led by Brian Friedman, has spent months publicly signaling that Discovery would produce information that undercuts Blake's version of events. The two sides have been trading filings for a while now, each one landing with its own wave of headlines. And it's easy to lose track of which claims are actually new and which ones are just being repackaged for another news cycle. The Taylor Swift thread is one small piece of that much larger legal fight, and it's important to hold on to that context because it's easy for a single explosive detail to end up carrying more weight in public conversation than it currently carries in an actual courtroom. According to Friedman's affidavit and several sources close to the situation, Blake allegedly kept close to 10 years of private texts and conversations with Taylor Swift and was reportedly prepared to use that history as leverage. Blake's attorney, Michael Gottlieb, has flatly denied this, calling it categorically false and completely detached from reality. And it's worth saying up front that none of this has been proven in court. What's being described here is one side's account, filtered through legal filings and unnamed sources, not an established fact, and it's the kind of claim that tends to get amplified online well before it's ever tested under oath. The specific request that supposedly triggered all of this was that Blake wanted Taylor to publicly acknowledge her absence from the Super Bowl with a supportive post, something along the lines of, "So sad my bestie couldn't make it." Taylor reportedly declined. From there, the account gets more serious. Blake allegedly reminded Taylor that she was still holding on to a decade's worth of private conversations that could, in theory, be released. If that's accurate, it's a pretty ugly way to handle a friend saying no to a favor. If it's not, it's a damaging claim being made about someone with no real chance to respond to it directly, since neither Taylor nor her team has addressed it publicly. So why has this story picked up steam online despite Blake's team denying it outright? A few reasons keep coming up in the discussion. First, Taylor herself hasn't publicly pushed back, no statement, no lawsuit, nothing. Some people read that as telling. Others point out that celebrities go quiet for all kinds of reasons, wanting to avoid feeding a story, letting lawyers handle it privately, or simply not wanting to wade into someone else's lawsuit. Silence isn't proof of anything on its own, and it's worth being honest about that rather than treating it as a smoking gun. It's also worth remembering that Taylor isn't a party to this lawsuit. She was reportedly named in filings and floated as a potential witness, but she's not the one suing or being sued, which gives her far less obligation to respond publicly than either Blake or Justin. The second reason people are paying attention is the alleged involvement of Scott Swift, Taylor's father. Multiple outlets have reported that he's the source who reportedly shared information with Justin Baldoni's legal team. Supposedly, in exchange, Baldoni's side agreed to drop a subpoena request for Taylor. If that's true, it would mean someone in Taylor's own camp thought this was serious enough to step in directly. But nobody has confirmed that on the record. Not Scott Swift, not anyone speaking for him. Right now, it's still just reports built on unnamed insiders. The subpoena part is a little more solid. Baldoni's team did reportedly try to get Taylor to hand over communications and possibly sit for a deposition earlier in the case, and that alone made headlines given who she is. That timing has fueled speculation that information changed hands behind the scenes. But subpoenas get dropped or narrowed for all kinds of reasons during a lawsuit like this. Timing lining up doesn't automatically mean there was a deal. Then there's the detail Friedman seems to keep coming back to, that the private texts between Blake and Taylor supposedly contain zero mention of sexual misconduct. What allegedly shows up instead is Blake venting about Justin Baldoni and a request for Taylor to come by her apartment, reportedly to help apply pressure on him. Friedman has publicly asked a pretty simple question. If Blake was genuinely being harassed, why isn't any of that in the text to her closest friend? It's a fair question, but it's not an airtight one either. People disclose things differently. A missing text doesn't automatically mean nothing happened. The alleged request to delete those messages is another detail people keep chewing on. Asking someone to wipe a shared text history naturally makes people wonder what's in it.
A bit more information about these texts between Blake and Taylor have come out. There's been some more details. We now know specifically, allegedly, what Blake wanted Taylor to put on her social media before she then threatened to expose all of the messages, allegedly, and a few other details.
Online, the going theory is that the messages would have undercut Blake's version of events. That's a reasonable guess. It's still just a guess, though. There's also a simpler explanation. Once a lawsuit is coming, plenty of people ask friends to delete old messages just to keep their private life private, whether or not there's anything damaging in there.
According to Lively's concern was that the text would prove there was never any mention of any sexual impropriety. Because exactly, Elsie always says it in the trailer and in the doc, like, where's the check-in text, Blake? Mm-hmm. You never, all that drama's going on, all that S is happening, and you never have a check-in text from Ryan of how's he treating you today? Did he say anything weird? No. That's all these Blake Lively defenders. How can you justify that? You can't.
Here's why any of this actually matters for the bigger Baldoni case. His team didn't need to prove Blake is hard to work with. They needed to show her harassment claims weren't accurate and that the campaign against him was payback rather than protection. If the Taylor Swift story holds up, it feeds that argument. It makes Blake look like someone willing to pressure people close to her to manage her image. If it doesn't hold up, it's really just a separate, sad story about a friendship falling apart under pressure. And it wouldn't tell us much about the Baldoni case at all. One more thing worth noting, Taylor Swift has gone after people before over privacy, cease and desist letters for jet tracking, legal threats against accounts monitoring her travel. She hasn't done anything like that here, and that contrast is part of why this story won't die down. But it's worth remembering those are very different situations. Suing a random jet tracking account is simple. Wading into someone else's harassment lawsuit is not, and there could be a dozen reasons she's choosing to stay out of that one that have nothing to do with guilt. It helps to zoom out for a second and look at how this case got here, because that timeline is a big part of why the Taylor Swift claims are landing the way they are. This lawsuit didn't start with Taylor Swift at all. It started with Blake's original complaint about her treatment on the set of It Ends With Us. Then came Baldoni's denial, and his countersuit accusing Blake and Ryan of running a media campaign to torch his career before he ever got a chance to respond. Friedman has been saying for a while now that discovery would eventually surface things that changed the story. Up until now, most of that was about scheduling, communications, behind-the-scenes production stuff. The Taylor Swift claims are a big jump from that. They take the story out of the workplace entirely and pull in someone who had nothing to do with the production at all. That jump is a big reason this particular claim has blown up the way it has. It's bigger, more personal, and it involves someone whose fame might outweigh Blake's and Justin's combined. When a claim that size drops into a case people have already been following for a year, it takes over the conversation, whether or not the sourcing behind it is actually that strong. Worth keeping in mind before treating it as equal to every other claim in this case. So what does any of this actually do for either side going forward? If Baldoni's team really has receipts, texts, testimony, whatever, this could end up mattering in depositions or at trial. not as some verdict on Blake's character, but as evidence for the retaliation claims at the center of the whole case. If nothing ever surfaces to back it up, and Blake's denial just holds, this whole thread quietly joins the pile of claims that get floated during a big lawsuit and then never really go anywhere. On their own, each of these details is plausible but unproven. An alleged threat, an alleged request to delete messages, a reported family intervention, some public silence. Stack them together, and you get a story a lot of people online find convincing. But convincing isn't the same as confirmed. All of it still rests on affidavits, anonymous sources, and a flat denial from Blake's side. And it's worth remembering, legal filings aren't neutral. They're written by one side to make their client look as good as possible. That doesn't make them wrong. It just means they're not the whole picture either. Bottom line, this is a legal fight that's still playing out, built on claims from both sides that haven't been tested under oath yet. The Taylor Swift thread is a genuinely interesting wrinkle in a much bigger case, but it's one more contested claim, not a verdict. Whatever actually comes out in depositions or at trial will matter a lot more than anything circulating online right now. This one's worth watching, not deciding on just yet. It's worth thinking about what happens next too, since that's usually where stories like this actually get settled instead of just talked about. Cases this size don't move fast. There's more discovery ahead, more depositions, probably more leaks along the way as both sides try to shape public opinion before anything reaches a courtroom. If the Taylor Swift claim is backed by real evidence, it may eventually surface in a filing, a deposition, or courtroom testimony. But it could just as easily stay sealed, get raised only in private discovery, or never become part of the public record at all. That's the tricky part about a case like this. A claim staying vague and source-based for months doesn't necessarily mean it's weak. It might just mean it hasn't had its moment yet. And a claim showing up attached to an actual filing doesn't automatically make it true either. It just means it's now something that can be challenged and tested rather than just repeated. It's also fair to ask why a story like this spreads so fast in the first place. Part of it is just the names involved. Taylor Swift alone guarantees attention no matter how thin the sourcing is. Part of it is that the story fits a shape people already find compelling. A powerful couple, a messy lawsuit, a beloved best friend caught in the middle. That doesn't make the claims false. It also doesn't make them true. It just explains why this particular thread took off online faster than some of the earlier, more mundane details in this case ever did. Nobody outside the people directly involved actually knows how much of this is true. What's public right now is legal filings, anonymous sourcing, and a lot of online speculation filling in the blanks. That's a long way from a settled account of what happened. Keep that in mind next time a headline about this case pops up, because alleged and proven are two very different things, and this story is going to live in that gap for a while yet. Whatever side you're currently leaning toward, it's probably worth holding that opinion loosely until more of this actually plays out in front of a judge instead of across social media. Thank you so much for watching. If this one kept you hooked, make sure to like the video and subscribe to Clout Fallout so you don't miss the next update on this story.